Morning, Bill.
Morning.
How are you this morning?
Oh, sleepy.
Oh, okay.
But okay. Oh, how are you?
I'm good.
Good.
A little tired, but
Been known to happen.
yeah. It's going to just be three of you today. Adam and Joanne are both
Ah,
involved. Adam with a director's meeting and Joanne with a demonstration at the Coast Guard Academy.
oh,
Every once in a while, she's off with a demonstration.
yeah. Well, she's very active,
Oh,
which is
yeah,
admirable.
indeed. Morning, Carol.
Morning.
Good morning. All right,
What?
blowing my nose.
Oh, oh.
Morning, Bill.
Morning. Hi, Bill,
Hi, Bill.
Carol, David.
Everybody that's here. So, Adam has a director's meeting, and Joanne is um, involved with a demonstration at the Coast Guard Academy this morning. So, it's just you guys.
Eh,
So, on a pretty but hot day,
Well, not yet, but
it's it's coming. 11 degrees above normal.
Yeah,
But there's
better
no
than
climate
Miami.
change. What?
Yeah, better than Miami.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Or
well, 11
Houston.
degrees above normal in Miami would be really hot.
Yeah, but they had like a heat index of 112 and
Yeah.
degrees of
Already.
98 or something like that just
uh, uh,
yesterday.
Uh,
uh, well, I'll stay where I am. Okay. Get a little extra.
Bonus. Bonus.
So, thoughts, questions? How's your head roll, spine roll?
There you go.
What problems are you having?
I feel like that's better, but how much weight shift is there on the feet, if any, when you're doing the twist? The
Virtually
the
none.
yeah.
I mean, um, depending on the size of your movement, but you may feel a little bit of weight shift on the feet, but it's that's that's not something we're looking for. Actually, we're looking eventually to be pretty stable. Um, from
For
the,
your scapula doing anything as you're
are you up here
forward
doing anything?
versus
God, I hope so. Uh,
yeah. But yeah, I'm it's it's small, but it's definitely the when I'm up there together and forward, they're apart a little bit. So
Yeah. No, one of the things um, we don't feel very easily, and sometimes don't remember, is that the scapula not only slide from the spine out and back, but they do circular movements like this, but they also do circular movements like this, away from the ribs and back in. Very small, very hard to feel. Um, so there ideally is always movement of the scapula, but it may be in another direction that we haven't really focused on up to this point. Just to confuse you. But yes, there should be scapular movement, absolutely. Absolutely. Bill or Carol, anything for you?
Um, well, since I've been playing outside for multiple hours a day, um, and doing movements that I'm not particularly used to after the winter. My neck has been stiff and my shoulders, which I expected, but the head roll really helps that, get me past that in a hurry, which has been nice. Yeah.
Yep.
And not the old fashioned neck roll,
Yeah.
the right one.
The right one. Yes, good. I'm glad to hear you have that distinction.
Well, the right one now causes all sorts of uh, crackling and popping, et cetera, et cetera. I can hear, uh, as opposed to the smoothness and quietness of the proper one. So,
Hmm. Okay. Carol?
I just think I'm relaxing into it a little bit better.
Oh, good.
That not so worried about am I doing this exactly right? I'm just okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, focus a little bit on the spine, on the back, posterior and the anterior, and just let it let it rip. So that's been nice.
Good. Well,
David,
I'm good.
I wanted to add one thing.
Yeah,
You asked
sure.
last week about the left side being uh, uh, not as free as the right side, and
Hmm.
I've been monitoring that, and that's true. I just simply can't um, move as freely on that side, so that's what's going on. Uh,
So something is holding you back on that side, is what you're
yes.
saying. So, um, one of the things I think to remember is that when you have a limitation, you want to do both sides the same.
Okay.
So don't don't do the right side larger than you can
Okay.
do the left side,
Okay.
because that can push you into trying to do more with the left side and actually aggravating whatever is there rather than beginning to release it.
Okay. Okay. And I mean, I've heard that before, but uh, um, it's hard to remember in the moment, particularly,
Yeah,
you know, you want to do each side as fully as possible. So,
yeah,
okay. Thank you.
yeah. So, um, we're going to go much more into movement 7 today. And so this may cause you to think more for a while about things, but I think this class can bring some clarity. Hopefully bring some clarity. So what is the value of movement 7? One thing is, if you talk about the human body, the way its energy moves is in spirals. It doesn't move in straight lines. The way the spinal roll is done and going through your legs, it will eventually penetrate the tissue from the outside of your legs right down to the bones and into the bone marrow. When it gets to the bones, that will essentially start opening up the energy of the various energy flows that derive from the left and right channels. When you get to the bone marrow, it's actually opening up the central channel. Now there is something, especially when it comes to meditation, that is one of the things that Bagua also does. For example, that all this turning, twisting, and spiraling of movement I'll get this in a moment, of movement 7 is shaking everything up inside you and making it at the unconscious level of the heart-mind really start fluctuating. In the middle of that fluctuation, what happens is that many things that are blocked start releasing and start becoming available to you, to excuse me, to your wellness. You get access in terms of dissolving it. You can get the access when something is, you can't get the access when something is blocked and not smooth. All the object in Taoist meditation is eventually to resolve all that is blocked, to completely dissolve it, so that all you have is smooth. So this spinal action sets your body up for being able to do that in meditation or in God's plane in the clouds. Remember that God's is also taking you into the realm of meditation. Now the next thing is that as you are bending forward and you're bending back, you're activating the anterior, which means forward, and the posterior longitudinal ligaments. These are big, thick ligaments which go right along the spine. And by doing this, you also increase its general flexibility, because anything that has to do with your spine is transiting through your body in primarily two ways. Vertical, so the bending of the ligaments in movement 7 in God's is definitely working the vertical plane of the anterior and posterior longitudinal ligaments, but not the side to side or the lateral movement. And that lateral movement is important if you want to move side to side. And that is what happens when you begin doing the spiraling movements of your head and your spine. Because since your head is a weight and your pelvis is a weight, you're getting all the signals in your body that are telling your body that it can rotate to do it. And that combines with the twisting and the spiraling, so that you're not only opening up the energetic pathways themselves, but you are also fully opening up the way they make the body work. When you begin doing movement 7, usually you're making very big movements. And perhaps like this. So when you first do movement 7, maybe it looks more like this, which actually is indeed where you should be starting, with a large movement. And you'll have difficulty getting that motion happening from your neck and your spine and actually going through and grounding you in your feet. What you want is that the practice of it goes all the way down to your feet, so that your feet will be making a spiral as well. More than that, it will really ground you into the earth. But now we have another issue, and is where this is eventually going. To bring you into your central channel and into your spinal cord. Initially, I'm not recommending anybody try to do it with the spinal cord, because until you have the vertebra loosened up, and unless you have the instruction of a master live, that would be a very stupid move, because there are a lot of things that can go wrong. So when you first start doing this, the movement is pretty big, but eventually it can be really very small. So the tightening up of the signal, that's how one actually goes into the spinal cord. And if you tighten up even a little bit more, that's how you start making this happen inside the central channel. So in one sense, you could say the tighter the circle, the better, because it's driving you into the deeper, more important parts of your energetic system. But on the other side, if your body is not really stable, it doesn't provide a stable platform, and therefore it would be a waste of time. So you need to look at this issue from both points of view. Now, if you actually have this turning and you are doing it reasonably well, the one thing you want to find is the connection from the crown of your head through your central channel and the crown through the central channel, and the crown of your head through your spine and through your perineum down to your feet. Because when you're doing this, there has to be rotational movement inside the pelvis and inside the perineum. And you don't want to get dizzy in addition to your body getting destabilized. You have to realize that when you get the rotations really going with each of these spirals, it is making fluid go into your brain and back into your body, and into your brain and back into your body, which is a good thing in general. This is really helping get the venous return to come back, but not only that, it's helping the arterial flow and also helping the cerebral spinal fluid to go to the brain the way it needs to be. Now you have to realize that if your waist is going to move, you also have to find a way that you know that you keep your ribs open. So, but at some point, and we'll work on this in a minute, but one of the things we have to be aware of is that when you're going to the side, for one thing, there is a point where you reach that's as far as you can go, and then it changes to the forward part of the movement. But as you're going to the side, these ribs begin to close a little bit, but these open. And it's important to get that feeling of the ribs closing and opening. And obviously, as they go to the other side, it's going to reverse. It's going to go the other way. As you come over here, these close, these open, and then they all open, particularly as you go back. So being aware of the ribs opening and closing is an important part of this. The central point is not how much you're moving your ribs. The point is that they are moving and that they are not interfering with the motion of the spine. If anything, they should help the spine because the ribs are connected to your spine. So you want to make sure that there is no pull. Now, your hips are pointing forward the whole time, but your waist is rotating along with your spine. You're not lifting the sides of your pelvis so that your hips stay stable. The tissues coming up from your legs all the way through are stretching, but your pelvis is not actually moving. So I'm going to want to do a practice in which we're going to, I'm going to actually ask you to pause basically at 4 points in the rotation. So let me be clear about what those are so that we at least start with some basic thought about that. So one of the things, and I don't think we've talked a great deal about this, but as you are rotating down, there is a point that you come to where you can't go any further in that direction without beginning to bend forward. So that first place where you've gone as far as you can to the side will be at one place where we pause. Clearly, the forward bend is another where we'll stop. When you're coming up on the other side, the same thing happens. There is a point where you can't go any further, and you have to pause. We're going to pause there, and I'm going to, at each of these, give you some suggestions on what to be aware of. And then there is the bend back, and that we will also pause at. So just so we know those 4 points and are aware of those. So if you will stand. So the first thing is to do that descending movement of movement 6, and come down to the dantian. Let the arms separate to the side and pause at that point, remembering that as the hands separate from the dantian out to the side, you're stretching your body. You're taking all the slack out of your body. You want to feel it from your head to your perineum and down to your feet, making sure that your neck is extended. And then begin the bend to the, go ahead. Come down. Separate and extend. Really feel that. Just pause there and let yourself be aware of not over extending any part of the body. You're still in your basic structure. The quad is relaxed, but the neck is extended and the body is alert. So then begin your bend to the side, and that's opening up the back of the spine. As you come to that first point on the side where you have rotated as far as it will go. And remember, when your head bends forward, it's going from the back of your spine. But you still have to have the crane neck. Feel the stretch of your spine all the way down to your sacrum. And then go forward and pause. Open up the vertebra from the back. And remember, if you have any sort of back issue that limits your C-curve, then focus on the posterior longitudinal ligaments as you go down. And then begin to go to the side and lift from the back of your spine, lifting up the side. And when you get to the point where you just can't go any further, pause and be aware that at that point you start lifting from the front of the spine, opening up the throat. So going on, letting the head rotate back. At that point, the crown of your head through your perineum should be screwing your feet and should be making the spiraling of your feet. And then starting down again, you're working on the posterior longitudinal ligament. Just get to that point where you've gone as far as you can go and be aware of the ribs closed on that side and opening on the other. And then go on down, bending forward. Feel that stretch. Then go up to the side as far as you can go. And then coming back, you're going to be raising your spine. So you raise your spine from the anterior part of the vertebra. But you have to make sure that you also really do lift from the vertebra in the front of your neck. And the feeling of this should be going all the way into the crown of your head. Now when you begin to go down the other way, you are still lifting from the vertebra of your neck. As you go to the side, the next thing that happens is you start opening up the ligament in the back of the neck. And you come forward as much as you can, still lifting from the back of the neck. Then as you go over and start to go forward, and then start lifting from the front of your neck. As far as it is going to go, aware of the ribs that are closing and the ribs that are opening. And then lift from the front of the neck as you're bending back. As you start to go down, open up the back of the neck. Okay, so just pause and relax. All of those things apply, of course, when you're rotating in either direction. So sit down for a moment and let's just talk about what you felt about that.
I have some trouble with the crane's neck.
Mm-hmm.
On one hand, you're saying opening up the front of your the in the neck, but the crane's neck has you closing it. It has it coming forward. So I think I'm doing the crane's neck wrong, or I'm just missing something there because it feels like I'm trying to do two mutually exclusive things.
Good question. So you have to think of this in terms of opening and closing, not bending. So you know, Carol, that you can open and close without bending or twisting or lengthening or doing anything else visual. So what's happening there is not that you are changing the extension of the neck, the basic extension of the neck, but you're opening it energetically so that the energy goes up to the crown of the head. So the open there is, we're really talking energetically, not a physical movement. Because you're right, we do, when we go back, we're still maintaining the extension, the crane's neck there. So you don't want to stretch it back. So now I do begin to close it. And the crane neck, also I think I would just, because you mentioned it, say the crane neck does not close the throat. The crane neck opens the throat. And here I'm talking physically. You know, if you just drop your head forward, you can hear what it does to your voice. If you do the crane neck and are bending from the crane neck, it doesn't do anything to your voice. So you have to find that difference there. And then the opening that we're talking about there in the front of the neck is opening energetically so that the energy goes up to the crown of the head. Did that clarify that for you?
We'll see.
Do you have further question about it?
No,
Okay.
just,
It's not easy.
no.
Bill or Bill?
Well, various portions of my spine felt freer during this one, particularly in the pausing helps
Uh-huh.
to orient what's going on. So that was good, particularly the cervical area. But this time I could fairly well feel most of the spine opening up. The word that always gets me nervous is spiraling, because I don't think I really understand spiraling.
Well, that's actually none of you have actually done spiraling energy bodies, so that's understandable. You can be aware of the sensation of spiraling, certainly. It would be unlikely that you're able to control spiraling at this point. But everything is spiraling in your body, which was something I know we've talked about before, but everything grows in spirals and everything moves in spirals. So that spiraling is happening in your body. We're just eventually wanting to get to where we have greater awareness of it, and eventually the ability to direct it to wherever we wish it to go in the body, which is obviously what we're trying to do with the energy in various forms.
Yeah.
But don't dwell on the spiraling, because
well, I don't, because I don't I don't know what to feel or do or anything.
Yeah, okay. Unfortunately, that's one class that I have not taught, and I probably at this stage won't.
Okay.
So you may have to find another teacher for that at some point. That's, as a matter of fact, that's not something that even Bruce doesn't even teach that online,
Mhm.
because you really have to be in person to do that.
Okay.
So um, it, there is a teacher I think who's capable of teaching it, but I've never seen him advertise a class for it. Bill Ryan, um, up in Massachusetts. Um, but there are very few people who have the ability to teach that. So maybe you have to go to Colorado one day and do it with Bruce. So, um, Mr. Bynum, anything for you?
Um, yeah, I think this was helpful. Um, the one thing, and I've been substituting, I guess, twisting for spiraling, for the elusive spiraling, which we aren't even really approaching. Uh, but the difference in this curve, especially when we're going forward from a C curve and the rest of it, is that the and I don't know if this is right, but this is what I think is right. Um, so the lower part of the spine isn't tucking or doing anything but uh, being stable. But it's still opening in the back, in the posterior, as you're going forward at the bottom of the spine. But it's not, it's different from being in the C curve, right?
um, yes, it is, because we're keeping the pelvis stable. It's not shifting side to side or forward and back in any significant way. The rotational movement of the spine is around the waist, and so my I realize that my mention of the C curve might be confusing. So I'm glad you brought it up, because we're not actually doing a C curve here, although the spine is certainly bending um, in the spine roll and the head roll. Um, so there's some similarity there, but it's not. We're not doing the C curve in that you're absolutely right. The lower part of the spine, the lumbar part of the spine, is not tucking and straightening in these movements. So um, what I'd like you to do is to um, you can do a couple of movements of 6 if you like to go into it, but then just go into movement 7 and do 10 repetitions to each side, and just see if you can begin to be aware of some of these elements that we were working on a minute ago. Okay. so sit down. So, what came up as you did that?
Felt good, although no two were the same. I felt being aware of imperfections as well as good parts, going through it.
Good. Okay.
It felt good to me also. Likewise, Bill. A little bit all over the place, but oddly, I felt whichever side I was going to, that opened better than when I got to. Okay, so if I was going 3 to 6 to 9, when I got to 3, that felt fairly open. When I got over to 9, it didn't feel as open. And when I switched and went the other way and got to 9, that felt fairly open. When I got over to 3, it didn't feel as open. So the initial stop on the circle seemed to be more open than the third stop. Yeah.
So,
If that makes any
does
sense.
that correlate with your difficult side?
It seemed to work both ways.
Okay.
And I'm not sure.
I think, the one thing I would say for, well, a couple of things I would say for all of you, but um, really working on being aware of the ribs opening and closing,
Yeah,
I think can have an impact on that. And and the it's a continuous change as with everything we do. So that when you go down, this is closing, this is opening. Now they're both closing, and then this is opening, this is closing, and then they're both opening. And so there is that continual flow of movement with the ribs. And I think that can, being aware of that, not allowing the body to just, saw a bit of a sense of the body just collapsing, both sides closed. You want that sense that one is closing and one is opening, and then they're switching to the other. So that helps, I think, to encourage the rotation of the spine at the waist. So I think it can be helpful for that. So I'll just throw that out. Anything else, Bill?
No, it just feels like the rotation needs to be much more the same on both sides than it is right now.
Yeah, that'll come, I think, with some practice.
Yeah.
Carol?
Um, Closing on my right, and my ribs was more uncomfortable. I was more aware of it, and it didn't. It was. I won't say cramping, but it's certainly not as smooth
Mm-hmm.
as the closing of the ribs on the left. And and just have to look at that and see what's going on with that.
Yeah.
Um, and I obviously went much faster than I thought I did because I finished before everybody else. And so I was just standing there and being at the top, so I could think about more about the crane's beak and the throat opening,
Hmm.
and kind of thinking, well, I could practice this just standing anywhere.
Absolutely.
Because,
Good for you.
yeah, yeah, this is interesting, and I think I can do this.
Yeah. Um, I I think one thing I would also say is to not be afraid of letting the full head roll still exist. There was kind of a tendency for the head roll to get, it seemed to me anyway, to get limited by trying to do the whole movement when doing the whole movement. So being aware of not getting locked up in any way with that. Um,
One thing I observed for breathing, I wasn't thinking about breathing a lot. I was trying to do reverse or doing reverse breathing, which has
mhm.
become more natural. But I found myself inhaling all the way through and then exhaling in that part going back and across. And then, so the inhale is a lot longer than the exhale in terms of the correlation with the movement. And
Well, that's
it sort of fell
interesting.
in that way. I don't know if that's, you haven't talked about breathing with this.
We haven't a great deal. No, that's true. Um, Actually, my tendency is to exhale going from the bend back to the bend forward, and then um, inhaling as you come up. I think it can work either way. I think, so the fact that you're breathing in the opposite relationship, I don't think is necessarily bad. I think that if that works for you, that's fine. Um, but I think the breath should be relatively even in this particular part of the practice. Not a, there's not a particular reason for the inhale or the exhale to be longer than the other. Um, so just one other little note. Um, there is another whole thing in Taoism called the golden thread, which means so many things. But it's a thread that's almost invisible, but connects everything. And that's why it's called gold, because of its value. And that's what you're doing when you're doing this. You're getting the golden thread throughout your whole body to be activated by this turning. And that's what it's about. The ultimate value of the spine roll in God's plane in the clouds is that it's a first stage for really starting to open up the central channel. So all the linkages between the central channel and the left and right channels get made. The second value is it is another thing that can move everything in your body at once, and that's very valuable. Of course, it's good for your spine, but also, besides being good for it, these actions of your whole spine are putting a lot of energy in and out of your brain. and the movements are causing the energy to move in all directions through the brain. It's naturally cleaning the chi of the brain. So this is very good for opening up your brain for whatever you want to use your brain for. Not just for intellectual stuff. Within meditation, this was said to be helpful to clear out the fuzziness that appears in the brain due to physical and chi reasons, not due to any sort of karmic reasons whatsoever, just purely derived from the nature of you have a physical body and how your physical body has to adapt. So have some fun playing with movement 7. And it, as I think I've mentioned before, it's preferable actually to do movement 7 as a part of a total flow. You probably get the most benefit from it that way. Today we were just focusing on it in order to try to be specific about it, but its greater benefit is as a part of the whole flow. So last minute thoughts or questions? Bill or Bill?
This was good. Thank you, David.
Okay, thank you. Have a,
Thank you.
oh, by the way, no class next week. I have my every 6 month doctor appointment with one of my eye doctors, and I can't see him at any other time. I have no choice. So we will have to skip next week.
Hey.
Okay, so I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Okay.
Have a
Thanks.
good 2 weeks, everyone.
Okay, you too.
Yeah.
We will have the Woo class, Bill, next week. I sent a note, I think, saying we wouldn't have class, but I had looked at my schedule wrong.
Okay, so it's the Wednesday class, but Tuesday, next Tuesday is good.
Yep, it's good.
Okay.
No, I was going to say, how are you going to get back to the doctor? Get back from the doctor by 10:30, by 10 o'clock. You can't do it.
No, different.
No, you got it. That
No,
one.
it's
Another one.
that one's not till 12:45, so I'm okay. Okay. Thanks, Bill.
Yeah.
Bye.
I'm not going to stay because John has a remote session with his counselor coming up soon, and I want to make sure I'm free to. I'm not in here, and I can help get him set up on her computer, which is right behind me.
Sure.
So, have you heard from Linda? Is she planning to come in person on Thursday?
I haven't heard from her yet. No. She often doesn't let me know until Thursday morning. But do you want me to let you know? Well.
Yeah, if she's coming out, I may come out.
Okay.
Because Shelley is not coming.
No, she's not coming. Has she got some further problem or just
She didn't elaborate. She just said
No.
she wasn't going to. I'm wondering if the 11 o'clock time is not good for her. Because she didn't really want to last week or last session. And I went over and she found it useful until Craig decided he had to come talk to her. But I think she has people who come and help her get out of bed and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if, she didn't say anything, but I don't know if 11 is too early, really.
Uh,
Or if she's just finding that, it's all too much.
I don't know. She indicated in my exchange with her that she would um, see us in 2 weeks, but
Oh, okay, well, that's good.
so uh, but that's as much as I know.
Yeah, because I've been going over one day a week, either
Hmm.
after Nagong or another day during the week to help Craig change her
Uh-huh.
at like 2-ish in the afternoon, like, mid-afternoon.
Yeah.
Um, but I know she showered, I'm not sure what day, but they said it took 3 people to get her into the shower
Oh God.
because the lift can't get her all the way into the tub. They put her on its seat and then they have to move the seat into well, it's not a tub, it's into the shower stall. And
Oh,
that's hard because she can't help it all.
yeah. Oh, poor thing.
Yeah.
I just
And it must be exhausting for all of them.
for everybody.
Yeah.
Um, uh, your heart just breaks for her.
Mhm.
Well, thank you for being such a good friend to her.
Well, I wish I could go over more often to help because I wish I could.
Yeah. Well,
But
you have your own issues to
I
deal
have
with.
my own issues.
Yeah. I wish I could too. But I can't drive.
Yeah.
Makes it a little difficult. Well, go get John set up.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it won't, it'll be for a little, it won't be for a little while, but I better make sure he's
Yeah.
moving.
And movement 7 doesn't have really anything to do with the forum, so
I can go practice I can movement 7 while he's talking with her. So,
yeah, why
that'll be good.
not? Well, good luck, and we'll see you one way or another tomorrow.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, David.